Good morning, grade sixes, and welcome back to WorksheetCloud and to your English lesson. We're going to change things up a bit. So one thing you'll get to know about me is while there is consistency in terms of different skills that we have to learn in English, I do try and shake things up a bit. I like it to be a little bit more exciting, and so our lesson is going to be slightly different today. So let's jump in and see what we are doing today. We are going to read together. So we're going to look at a specific novel. We're also going to stop and discuss along the way things to do with identity, choices, determination, and perspective. And obviously, as we read, we're going to look at language and comprehension activities. So things that you've done, like summarizing, we're going to use that skill and put into practice as we read. We're going to look at our figurative language, onomatopoeia, similes, alliteration, metaphors, looking in specific parts of the book and see if we can identify those figurative language devices. So let's jump into what is the purpose of reading a novel or studying a novel, because I love to read. I'm sure some of you like to read, some of you don't. So why do we do it at school? Why do we actually study a novel? So it's to develop a variety of ways for you to think about or to understand ideas. And they also help us and help you to learn new things. It's also to learn how to apply strategies to comprehend, so our comprehension strategies, and to see things differently or to understand others with different viewpoints, even if they're not the same as ours, and especially if they're not the same as ours. So what I'd like you to do, I just Googled some beautiful pictures, and I love this. I wouldn't mind having a chair like that of my own. A hammock is great as a place to read, a bay window, just a normal chair or couch. I also love this picture. How awesome is this? I wouldn't mind grabbing a book and going and reading in a place like that. So what I'd like you to do is find a comfortable spot, take your device with you if you can, and sit and let's get stuck into an actual novel. So we're going to look at the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio. If you have read it, that's great. You still got so much to learn from this, and I really do hope that you'll stick with me through this. We are going to do quite a few reading activities along the way, but obviously in between them, I'm still going to do your language skills that you need to know and some of the other strategies that you need to know for term 2. Great. So now we move on to the actual book. And I've actually got the Wonder book with me today. So don't stress if you haven't got the book. That's why I'm here. We're going to read together. I'm going to go through everything. If you need any part of this book to look at, I will be taking a screenshot and we'll be discussing it. So don't panic if you haven't got it. If you have, that's great. Then you can obviously follow along. So the blurb is a short description usually found at the back of the book. And I'll read this one to you in a minute. But just before you start reading a book, it's so important to look at the cover, look at the title, and sort of wonder what the book is about. So the book is called Wonder, just a bit funny on my part. And so what does the word wonder mean? It means to be amazed or curious. I wonder why the sun sets at a certain time every day in South Africa. That's a curiosity question. But wonder could also mean a miracle. It's a wonder how something happened or survived. You can look at the top. It says you can't blend in when you were born to stand out. It's got looks like a picture of a boy with one eye. So already we're thinking that's not really normal to have one eye. So perhaps there's something to do with the boy. You can't blend in when you were born to stand out. So there's something about him that he stands out. So let's look at the back and I'll read it to you now. So here we go. My name is August. I won't describe what I look like. Whatever you're thinking, it's probably worse. So yeah, quite a hard thing to be saying. He obviously doesn't like what he looks like. We know that this book is about a boy called August, just from reading the blurb. And he obviously has an issue with what he looks like. If we look at some of the comments on the back of what different people have said, it has the power to move hearts and change minds. It's tremendously uplifting and a novel of all too rare power. It says incredibly charming and brilliant. And in the front, It also has, there we go, a couple of comments, and it says they're tremendously moving and uplifting, hopeful and important book. Contrast that with some of the other comments which say it wreaks emotional havoc. It also says it's incredibly charming and brutal. So quite different to the uplifting and hopeful. It wreaks emotional havoc. And havoc is like chaos, like a mess. So sort of saying that as you read it emotionally, you're going to feel that you're going through something, or that you are battling to cope with what's been written in this. It is obviously very appropriate for grade 6, so nothing to worry about in terms of it being too much for you, but just in terms of dealing with your own emotions as you're confronted by a boy like August. So I have moved around a little bit to get a bit more comfortable. I hope that you have too. And so without further ado, let's jump in and read. So I'm reading from chapter 1. You can just listen. Ordinary. I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things. I eat ice cream, I ride my bike, I play ball. I have an Xbox. Stuff like that makes me ordinary, I guess. And I feel ordinary inside. But I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away screaming in playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. If I found a magic lamp and I could have one wish, I would wish that I had a normal face that no one noticed at all. I would wish that I could walk down the street without people seeing me and then doing that look away thing. Here's what I think. The only reason I'm not ordinary is that no one else sees me that way. But I'm kind of used to how I look by now. I know how to pretend I don't see the faces people make. We've all gotten pretty good at that sort of thing. Me, Mum and Dad, and Veer. Actually, I take that back. Veer's not so good at it. She can get really annoyed when people do something rude. Like, for instance, one time in the playground, some older kids made some noises. I don't even know what the noises were exactly, because I didn't hear them myself. But Veer heard, and she just started yelling at the kids. That's the way she is. I'm not that way. Veer doesn't see me as ordinary. She says she does. But if I were ordinary, she wouldn't feel like she needs to protect me as much. And Mum and Dad don't see me as ordinary either. They see me as extraordinary. I think the only person in the world who realizes how ordinary I am is me. My name is August, by the way. I won't describe what I look like. Whatever you're thinking, it's probably worse. So we're going to pause at this stage, and I just thought that we would just take a moment to think about that very first paragraph. Okay, so the very first paragraph looks like this. I'll read it again. It says, I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old kid. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things. I eat ice cream, I ride my bike, I play ball, I have an Xbox. Stuff like that makes me ordinary, I guess. And I feel ordinary inside. But I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away screaming in the playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. So do you see the keyword ordinary is used a few times? I think it's to emphasize the fact that he obviously would love to be ordinary, but he's not. Yes, he does ordinary things, and on the inside he feels ordinary, but on the outside he's not. And obviously his family doesn't treat him as if he's ordinary. So we're going to carry on. I'm not going to stop as often as I do in the next couple of lessons, but I thought just at the start we just stop and just look at a few things along the way. So I'm going to go back to reading the next chapters, and here we go. Why I didn't go to school. Next week I start 5th grade. Since I've never been to a real school before, I'm pretty much totally and completely petrified. People think I haven't gone to school because of the way I look, but that's not it. It's because of all the surgeries I've had, 27 since I was born. The bigger ones happened before I was even 4 years old, so I don't remember those. But I've had 2 or 3 surgeries every year since then, some big and some small. And because I'm little for my age and I have some other medical mysteries that doctors never really figured out, I used to get sick a lot. That's why my parents decided it was better if I didn't go to school. I'm much stronger now, though. The last surgery I had was 8 months ago, and I probably won't have to go for any more for a couple of years. Mom homeschools me. She used to be a children's book illustrator. She draws really great fairies and mermaids. Her boy stuff isn't so hot, though. She once tried to draw me a Darth Vader, but it ended up looking like some weird mushroom-shaped robot. I haven't seen her draw anything in a long time. I think she's too busy taking care of me and Via. I can't say I always wanted to go to school because that wouldn't be exactly true. What I wanted was to go to school, but only if I could be like every other kid going to school. Have lots of friends and hang out after school and stuff like that. I have a few really good friends now. Christopher is my best friend, followed by Zachary and Alex. We've known each other since we were babies, and since they've always known me the way I am, they're used to me. When we were little, we used to have playdates all the time, but then Christopher moved to Bridgeport in Connecticut. That's more than an hour away from where I live in North River Heights, which is at the top tip of Manhattan. And Zachary and Alex started going to school. It's funny, even though Christopher's the one who moved far away, I still see him more than I see Zachary and Alex. They have all these new friends now. If we bump into each other on the street, they're still nice to me though. They always say hello. I have other friends too, but not as good as Christopher and Zach and Alex. For instance, Zach and Alex always invited me to their birthday parties when we were little, but Joel and Iman and Gabe never did. Emma invited me once, but I haven't seen her in a long time. And, of course, I always go to Christopher's birthday. Maybe I'm making too big a deal about birthday parties. So you can read a little bit into how he's feeling in terms of talking about friends and birthday parties and such. Right, the next chapter, How I Came to Life. I like when Mom tells this story because it makes me laugh so much. It's not funny in the way a joke is funny, but when Mom tells it, Via and I just start cracking up. So when I was in Mom's stomach, no one had any idea I would come out looking the way I look. Mom had had Via 4 years before, and that had been such a walk in the park, Mom's expression, that there was no reason to run any special tests. About 2 months before I was born, the doctors realized there was something wrong with my face, but they didn't think it was going to be bad. They told Mom and Dad I had a cleft palate and some other stuff going on. They called it small anomalies. There were 2 nurses in the delivery room the night I was born. One was very sweet and nice. The other one, Mom said, did not seem at all nice or sweet. She had very big arms, and here comes the funny part. She kept farting. Like she'd bring Mom some ice chips and then fart. She'd check Mom's blood pressure and fart. Mom says it was unbelievable because the nurse never even said excuse me. Meanwhile, Mom's regular doctor wasn't on duty that night, so Mom got stuck with this cranky kid doctor she and Dad nicknamed Doogie after some old TV show or something. They didn't actually call him that to his face. But Mom says that even though everyone in the room was kind of grumpy, Dad kept making her laugh all night long. When I came out of Mom's stomach, she said the whole room got very quiet. Mom didn't even get a chance to look at me because the nice nurse immediately rushed me out of the room. Dad was in such a hurry to follow her that he dropped the video camera, which broke into a million pieces. And then Mom got very upset and tried to get out of bed to see where they were going. But the farting nurse put her very big arms on Mom to keep her down in the bed. They were practically fighting because Mom was hysterical and the farting nurse was yelling at her to stay calm, and then they both started screaming for the doctor. But guess what? He had fainted, right on the floor. So when the farting nurse saw that he had fainted, she started pushing him with her foot to get him to wake up, yelling at him the whole time, "What kind of doctor are you? What kind of doctor are you? Get up, get up!" And then all of a sudden, she let out the biggest, loudest, smelliest fart in the history of farts. Mom thinks it was actually the fart that finally woke the doctor up. Anyway, when Mom tells this story, she acts out all the funny parts, including the farting noises. And it is so, 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 so funny. Mom says the farting nurse turned out to be a very nice woman. She stayed with Mom the whole time, didn't leave her side, even after Dad came back and the doctors told him how sick I was. Mom remembers exactly what the nurse whispered in her ear when the doctor told her I probably wouldn't live through the night. Everyone born of God overcometh the world. And the next day, after I'd lived through the night, it was that nurse who held Mom's hand when they brought her to meet me for the first time. Mom says by then they had told her all about me. She had been preparing herself for the seeing of me. But she says that when she looked down into my tiny mushed up face, for the first time, all she could see was how pretty my eyes were. Mom is beautiful, by the way, and Dad is handsome. Via is pretty, in case you're wondering. Wow, quite a funny chapter. As I was reading it, there were a couple of fricative language devices that I noticed. I wonder if you did too. The first one, Via and I just started cracking up, talking about laughing. So they weren't actually cracking up as in breaking up, like I suppose when you crack an egg. They were just actually laughing so much. So that's an exaggeration. It's actually called hyperbole. And then later on it said something about when Dad dropped the camera and it broke into 1,000,000 pieces. That's also an exaggeration, hyperbole. So you the camera didn't break into 1,000,000 pieces, probably about 20 or even 50, but certainly not 1,000,000. And then also there was a part that said Mom had had Via 4 years before and that had been such a walk in the park. So that is a saying or an idiom. But I hope that you've enjoyed it today. There is an activity for you to do, and the story about the farting nurse and how August was born and all that is called an anecdote. It's a story that you can talk about with your family. So it's something that's funny that happened, and most of us have one. So I really want you to just go away and think about if there are any stories, anecdotes of you and your family that you could reminisce about, think about, laugh about. They could be as funny as the farting nurse, or about something else completely different. Okay, so I've just also I've added it to the screen. So you can't reread page 6 or 7, but it is about the farting nurse. But as it says, every family has a funny anecdote that they tell and retell, and it's something that really happened to a person, but often the story becomes exaggerated and favorite bits become emphasized. So really do take the time to do that. So we're going to carry on to the next chapter, and I know they're quite short, and now we're just going to read, so you can really just take time out to just sit and relax. Right. Okay, Christopher's house. I was really bummed when Christopher moved away 3 years ago. We were both around 7 then. We used to spend hours playing with our Star Wars action figures and dueling with our lightsabers. I miss that. Last spring we drove over to Christopher's house in Bridgeport. Me and Christopher were looking for snacks in the kitchen, and I heard Mom talking to Lisa, Christopher's mom, about my going to school in the fall. I had never ever heard her mention school before. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Mom looked surprised, like she hadn't meant for me to hear that. "You should tell him what you've been thinking, Isabel," Dad said. He was on the other side of the living room talking to Christopher's dad. "We should talk about this later," said Mom. "No, I want to know what you were talking about," I answered. "Don't you think you're ready for school, Augie?" Mom said. "No, I don't." "I don't either," said Dad. "Then that's it, case closed," I said, shrugging, and I sat in her lap like I was a baby. "I just think you need to learn more than I can teach you," Mom said. "I mean, come on, Augie, you know how bad I am at fractions." "What school?" I said. I already felt like crying. "Beecher Prep, right by us." "Wow, that's a great school, Augie," said Lisa, patting my knee. "Why not Via's school?" I said. "That's too big," Mom answered. "I don't think that would be a good fit for you." "I don't want to," I said. I admit I made my voice sound a little bit babish. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do," Dad said, coming over and lifting me out of Mom's lap. He carried me over to sit on his lap on the other side of the sofa. "We won't make you do anything you don't want to do." "But it would be good for him, Nate," Mom said. Not if he doesn't want to, answered Dad, looking at me. Not if he's not ready. I saw Mom look at Lisa, who reached over and squeezed her hand. You guys will figure it out, she said to Mom. You always have. Let's just talk about it later, said Mom. I could tell she and Dad were going to get in a fight about it. I wanted Dad to win the fight, though a part of me knew Mom was right. And the truth is, she really was terrible at fractions. Driving. It was a long drive home. I fell asleep in the back seat, like I always do, my head on Via's lap like she was my pillow, a towel wrapped around the seat belt so I wouldn't drool all over her. Via fell asleep too, and Mom and Dad talked quietly about grown-up things I didn't care about. I don't know how long I was sleeping, but when I woke up, there was a full moon outside the car window. It was a purple night, and we were driving on a highway full of cars. And then I heard Mom and Dad talking about me. We can't keep protecting him, Mom whispered to Dad, who was driving. We can't just pretend he's going to wake up tomorrow and this isn't going to be his reality, because it is, Nate, and we have to help him learn to deal with it. We can't just keep avoiding situations that... So sending him off to middle school like a lamb to the slaughter, Dad answered angrily, but he didn't even finish his sentence because he saw me in the mirror, looking up. What's a lamb to the slaughter? I asked sleepily. Go back to sleep, Augie, Dad said softly. Everyone will stare at me at school, I said, suddenly crying. Honey, Mom said. She turned around in the front seat and put her hand on my hand. You know, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But we spoke to the principal there and told him about you, and he really wants to meet you. What did you tell him about me? How funny you are, and how kind and smart. When I told him you read Dragon Rider when you were 6, he was like, wow, I have to meet this kid. Did you tell him anything else? I said. Mom smiled at me. Her smile kind of hugged me. I told him about all your surgeries and how brave you are, she said. So he knows what I look like? I asked. Well, we brought pictures from last summer in Montauk, Dad said. We showed him pictures of the whole family and that great shot of you holding that flounder on the boat. You were there too. I have to admit I felt a little disappointed that he was part of this. We both talked to him, yes, Dad said. He's a really nice man. You would like him, Mom added. Suddenly it felt like they were on the same side. Wait, so when did you meet him? I said. He took us on a tour of the school last year, said Mom. Last year? I said. So you've been thinking about this for a whole year and you didn't tell me? We didn't know if you'd even get in, Augie, answered Mom. It's a very hard school to get into. There's a whole admission process. I didn't see the point in telling you and having you get all worked up about it unnecessarily. But you're right, Augie. We should have told you when we found out last month that you got in, said Dad. In hindsight, sighed Mom. Yes, I guess. Did that lady who came to the house that time have something to do with this? I said. The one that gave me that test? Yes, actually, said Mom, looking guiltily. Yes. You told me it was an IQ test, I said. I know, well, that was a white lie, she answered. It was a test you needed to take to get into the school. You did very well on it, by the way. So you lied, I said. A white lie, yes, but I'm sorry, she said, trying to smile. But when I didn't smile back, she turned around in her seat and faced forward. What's a lamb to the slaughter? I said. Mom sighed and gave Dad a look. I shouldn't have said that, Dad said, looking at me in the rearview mirror. It's not true. Here's the thing. Mommy and I love you so much. We want to protect you any way we can. It's just sometimes we want to do it in different ways. I don't want to go to school, I answered, folding my arms. It would be good for you, Augie, said Mom. Maybe I'll go next year, I answered, looking out the window. This year would be better, Augie, said Mom. You know why? Because you'll be going into the 5th grade, and that's the first year of middle school for everyone. You won't be the only new kid. I'll be the only kid who looks like me, I said. I'm not going to say it won't be a challenge for you, because you know better than that, she answered. But it'll be good for you, Augie. You'll make lots of friends, and you'll learn things you'd never learn with me. She turned in her seat again and looked at me. When we took the tour, you know what they had in their science lab? A little baby chick that was just hatching out of its egg. It's so cute. Augie, it actually reminded me of you when you were a little baby, with those big brown eyes of yours. I usually love when they talk about when I was a baby. Sometimes I want to curl up in a tiny little ball and let them hug me and kiss me all over. I miss being a baby, not knowing stuff. But I wasn't in the mood for that now. I don't want to go, I said. How about this? Can you at least meet Mr. Tushman before making up your mind? Mom asked. Mr. Tushman? I said. He's the principal, answered Mom. Mr. Tushman, I repeated. I know, right? Dad answered, smiling and looking at me in the rearview mirror. Can you believe that name, Augie? I mean, who on earth would ever agree to have a name like Mr. Tushman? I smiled, even though I didn't want to let them see me smile. Dad was the one person in the world who could make me laugh, no matter how much I didn't want to laugh. Dad always made everyone laugh. Augie, you know, you should go to that school just so you can hear his name over the loudspeaker, Dad said excitedly. Can you imagine how funny that would be? Hello, hello, paging Mr. Tushman. He was using a fake high-pitched voice. Hi, Mr. Tushman. I see you running a little behind today. Did your car get rear-ended again? What a bum rap. So obviously tush is another word for bum or behind. So I'm actually going to read that part again in case you missed it. Hi, Mr. Tushman. I see you running a little behind today. Did your car get rear-ended again? What a bum rap. I started laughing, not even because I thought he was being that funny, but because I wasn't in the mood to stay mad anymore. It could be worse, though. Dad continued in his normal voice. Mommy and I had a professor in college called Miss Butt. Mom was laughing now too. Is that for real? I said. Roberta Butt, Mom answered, raising her hand as if to swear. Bobby Butt. She had huge cheeks, said Dad. Nate, said Mom. What? She had big cheeks is all I'm saying. Mom laughed and shook her head at the same time. Hey, I know, said Dad excitedly. Let's fix them up on a blind date. Can you imagine? Miss Butt, meet Mr. Tushman. Mr. Tushman, here's Miss Butt. They could get married and have a bunch of little tushies. Poor Mr. Tushman, answered Mom, shaking her head. Augie hasn't even met the man yet, Nate. Who's Mr. Tushman? Via said groggily. She had just woken up. He's the principal of my new school, I said. So, we've read a couple of chapters now. I hope you have enjoyed it. We will be reading more and we will be discussing certain things along the way. So, just some things to think about as we've read the beginning part. How do we form our identities? How does what others think of you affect how you think about yourself? How is your identity, who you are, shaped by your relationships and experiences? What can you learn about yourself by studying the lives of others? And when should an individual take a stand in opposition to an individual or larger group? So just some things to think about in light of what we've just read, but also in terms of what's coming. And so just thank you again, grade 6s, for joining us. There is going to be an activity for you to do, and it's going to be with looking at some passages out of Wonder that we've already read and finding some figurative language devices and some other things that we've been looking at, like summarizing and your parts of speech. Remember, if you do have any emails or any questions, rather, send them to the email at grade6@worksheetcloud.com and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, grade 6s, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye, everybody.